every time that song kicks in, my juices start flowing. I get so excited. I'm in the back jumping around, preparing. Anyways, hey everyone, welcome back to The Perspective, a show where we tackle paranormal and supernatural claims, belief in aliens, conspiracy theories, pretty much any claim you want to bring us. All you have to do is call the number at the bottom of the screen, 951-364-2430, and you get to speak to myself and Secular Rarity about why you believe what you believe. So, SR, how you doing?
Man, I am great. I gotta say though, that intro is spooky. Like it's
Isn't
like
it?
I was really like looking at it, and like the lady at the end, like that's creepy, man. Like that kind of like I might not sleep super great tonight. So no, I love your intro, man. It's fun. It's just exciting. Man, I am always excited to be here. I love doing this. It is the most fun in the world, I think, when people can really challenge me and kind of get me to see things from a different perspective. Hey, wait a second. That's the name
That's
of
the name of the show.
Yeah, man, it's gonna be an absolutely super fun night. I just know it. So
Yeah, I love discussing people's beliefs, finding out why they believe what they believe, because after all, I myself used to be a believer. And so I want to continue to investigate all the claims people bring us.
Yeah.
When people tell us why they believe in God, I want to find out why.
Yeah. Now, were you ever like I don't know if I know this. Were you ever super big into ghosts? Like, were you ever like hardcore, like, dude, ghost talk to me?
Oh,
No.
okay. Well, I never said like ghosts talk to me, but
Yeah. Okay.
absolutely. I used to believe in ghosts, spirits, angels, demons, the eternal war
Yeah.
going on. Like,
Oh,
there are
even
certain places that had like dark energy about them, and I could
sure.
pick up the vibes. I
Yeah.
never thought I could speak to them in any way, but I absolutely used to believe in
Yeah.
hauntings. Like there was this one house I went to, it was my at the time girlfriend's. The dog wouldn't go upstairs. Allegedly, this girl was killed in the house, so we're all convinced that there's something spooky going on there. And then I brought my buddy. He walked upstairs and the smell was so bad he ran out and started puking, and we couldn't smell anything. So we're like, oh my God, this is clearly a very haunted
Yeah.
place.
Has to be. No other answer. Yeah. Yeah. I know that. I
So,
used to when I was really young, like 8 or 9, I think, I would tell people that I could see their auras. And I remember, like the like glowing light presence, like essence, spirit, whatever thing around
right.
people. But I remember at the time, like really believing that I could see this, and it wouldn't be for years until going to see an optometrist regularly, where he kind of broke down to me how crappy our eyes are and what those little tiny visual hallucinations are on a regular basis. And from then on, I was like, oh, cool. Yeah. So that's why there's little speckles every now and then. It's like, yeah, because my eyes suck. I don't know that a doctor should be telling their patients that exactly, but I guess it's kind of nice, right?
Yeah, that's
Like,
true.
it's anyway.
Anyway, you want to jump into calls?
Yeah, if we got them.
We got a few great ones, but let's get to our first caller. Is from Indiana, wants to talk about her belief in God. Robin, you are on with Secular Rarity and Ethan. How are you?
Hi, I'm good. How are you?
I am doing well, thank you. Thanks for taking the time out of your day to call the show.
Yeah.
Thank you. Give me 1 second. Picking up a prescription.
Oh, yeah. Do you want me to come back to you?
If you want to, sure.
Okay, I'll put you back on hold. Oh,
Thanks.
crap. I almost hit drop. Did not want to do that. Okay, so we've got Dave in Illinois wants to talk about why he believes in God. Dave, you're on with Ethan and Secular Rarity. How are you?
Good. How are you?
Doing good. I actually, this is Dave I used to karaoke with a long time ago. So we have history together. We used to go to the same karaoke bars. How you been?
I've been really good, man. How have you been?
I have been good. I miss karaoke very much, man, because We used to have so much fun back in the day singing to larger audiences, and I miss those days.
Oh, for sure.
So
Yeah,
Dave,
that was a blast, man. I miss those. What was that?
so Dave, why do you believe in God?
Why do I believe in God? So as a child, I actually was born with 2 heart defects. So I had a congenital heart failure. So I almost didn't make it.
Oh,
And
wow.
so my mother prayed or whatever that I would make it, and I made it. I made it through, and I guess I was one of the first children. This is back in the 80s that actually survived from 2 open heart surgeries that I had. And just kind of from that, I thought, well, Jesus, man, there's got to be something to that, to say that God doesn't exist or to say that I don't believe in him when something so miraculous like that, is the reason why I'm still here, it's truly amazing. And then I've just kind of had other instances throughout my life that have been like really, moving, and I just kind of believed from there,
Could
I
I
think the only explanation for it could be God.
could I jump in real quick, Dave? Just
Yeah,
to
go
clarify so that I kind of understand where you're coming from fully. It sounds like to me you're saying what was a pretty traumatic experience for a brand new baby, of course, and for new parents as well, I'd imagine. That is kind of the ground layer underpinning, and then you've had some things on top of it over the years that kind of reconfirm that. Is that kind of what you were saying?
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. 100%. Absolutely. Yeah.
So if there were, some way to, I don't even know yet, but if there was some way that we could kind of shake that foundation, would all of those other things still apply? Would you still be able to say like, well, I had this experience when I was 20 and that reconfirmed that first experience? If we could show that first experience maybe wasn't exactly as founded as you thought.
Absolutely. I don't think there's, I mean, even if you shake that or whatever, I think, so many things that have gone into my life, like all my success that I've had, where I'm at today as a person. I mean, so much of it, like, I feel like I cannot take credit for all of it, because I think, throughout my life growing up, I think people assumed I would go nowhere and become nothing. And then I have become so successful. And it's like, what else could, explain that,
Why do you want to give credit for your success? Why would you want to give credit to anything other than you? Why do you feel that need, do you think?
I don't necessarily feel that need. I just feel like,
you said it couldn't have come from you, right?
What?
I mean, correct me if I'm wrong here, Dave, but it sounded like you said, well, people thought I wasn't going to go anywhere and I'm so successful now, and that just couldn't have been from me. Is that not what you said?
Sure. Yeah, absolutely. I feel like it just couldn't have been for me. And
Why?
I think a lot of that is just, growing up in, church and stuff like that, I think we're kind of taught to believe that, that it's from the glory of God is like it's taught to believe, we are taught to believe that like through God, all things can happen or whatever. And so I guess it's just the teaching that I have been taught ever since I was pretty young, that's, what you believe is that, through God, great things can happen.
Would you be open to the possibility of like a naturalistic explanation? Like, for instance, what if it was just the doctors that were able to, and don't get me wrong, I'm so grateful everything worked out as it did. I'm glad I had the chance to meet you and hang out with you.
Yeah,
but what if it was just the doctors who saved your life? Do you think that's possible?
So, I mean, I think anything is possible. And of course, they saved my life. I wouldn't be here without the doctors, right? I absolutely wouldn't be here without the doctors. But as much as I wouldn't be here without the doctors, I still consider the fact that my mother prayed, right? She prayed, that, everything would turn out or whatever, So I think, well, what if she hadn't have prayed? Would it have not turned out? What if she hadn't have been religious? Would it have not turned out, right? Because I'll never know those type of things. You can't go back and erase what was done, right?
Sure,
I can
but
only
So
take what
Da-
was done and just go, okay.
Dave, do you mind if
you-
I? Oh, go ahead, Ethan. Go ahead.
do you think there is a way we could test prayer or God in a reliable, repeatable way? Because like for me, Dave, I used to be a believer for most of my life. I was a Christian. But I found that any tests I put forth, God could never really pass. Do you have any ways we could test it?
Yeah.
Test his prayer or test your prayer ability?
So I don't think there's necessarily any ways to test it, but I think part of the problem is I think there's a misconception, amongst people about the way it works with God, right? I think we think that God is on our time, but actually it's the other way around. So what I mean by that is that you can pray and pray and pray, and things may not happen the way that you want them to. But the Christian belief is that it doesn't happen the way you want it to. It happens the way that God wants it to happen, and God knows, what is truly going to fill your heart. So you actually continue to keep praying and continue to keep doing that, and you might actually find that in the end of the road, He actually fulfilled your life with something greater than you thought, was fulfilling. So you think, oh, if only I could be this or have this, or if I keep praying this and that, and you think that in the end, that's what's going to make you happy. But in the end, God might give something to you that brings more joy to you than you ever thought fathomable, right?
So
but I don't know
Dave,
that there's necessarily a way to test it.
yeah. So I think I understand where you're coming from on that, but I guess what jumps into my head immediately is Shiva or Vishnu,
Okay.
the Anunnaki, right? So I got a neighbor, and they pray to Vishnu, and Vishnu grants them prayers. And I guess what I'm wondering is where do you put the value of those stories of people? Do you feel like they also are correct in their understanding of what took place when they prayed to Vishnu and then received the answer to their prayer?
Mm-hmm.
Does that make sense, what I was asking? If not, I can.
That's okay. So the thing about it is each religion, whatever, is a little bit different. So I mean, it's interesting because I kind of find religion to be fascinating in that when you look at different religions and different beliefs, who's to say that one belief is right and one belief is wrong, right? And so to answer your question of the value of that, I don't know what the value of that is because I don't practice that or whatever. So it's even the Muslims, they pray to a certain direction at a certain time,
Right.
and they have all these things that they believe in and do. And I'm not saying that that's absolutely wrong, because
But do
I
you
don't
believe
know.
it?
That's the interesting thing. What?
That's what is interesting to me. The fact that you believe this story for yourself based on prayer and a personal experience. I'm wondering, do you believe the Muslim story when they say they prayed and they had a personal experience too? Do you put them at the same?
Sure. I mean,
So
yeah, I think anybody can have a personal experience from prayer. I mean, I think regardless of what your religion is or whatever, I think prayer can be beneficial, regardless of that. And then I think you can have different experiences and whatever. But yeah, I think they can be very positive experiences can come from prayer, regardless of what your religion is.
I guess, do you know of a way where we could determine the difference and find out which God is real?
That's where I was going, Ethan.
Okay, so which God? Okay, so there really isn't, right? Because each religion believes in a different God. So for the Muslim religion, it's Allah. So that is what they actually pray to. They pray to Allah. It's not God, but that means God, I think, in their language. And so to say that like this God is real and that God is not, you know, there isn't really a way. I mean, or I don't feel like there's a way in that, you know, it's just like saying my religion is right and their religion is wrong or whatever, you know, who's to say, right? Because each religion is a little bit, so religion originally came from the Hebrew. So that's where it was originally like transcribed. It was Hebrew and Latin, I believe, is the other transcription. And so what's kind of interesting about that is I always wonder, like, when it was transcribed, you know, who's to say that it wasn't transcribed incorrectly? Because it's from, you know, millions and millions of years ago, right? Before Christ and all these different
Dave,
things. So, like, who's to say that, like, at some point it was
Dave,
wrong?
give me just a second here. If I can just cut in again, because I feel like we definitely have a lot that we could probably push back on. I know I do, but one thing that comes to my mind that's kind of sticking for me, and I don't know how I get past it. It seems to be that you've both said you have made a decision as to what is correct, but then you've also said, well, we can't make a decision, and who's to say which decision to make? It sounds like you accept that your mother prayed to a particular understanding of a particular God, and that was right, and that it happened. But how, if you know that, if you're saying that, well, who's to say what's right? How do we know one way or the other? Well, why do you come to that determination? That's what interests me.
Sure. So what you're asking me is how do I come to the determination that, you know, through my mother's prayer, that's how I'm still here. Is that what you're asking me?
No, not really. So let me try and rephrase it. It sounds like just a second ago you basically said there's a box that we can't open with potentially something in it, and nobody knows what's in that box, but I know what's in that box. It sounds like to me you've made the understanding of a particular God, but at the same time are also saying that you can't discount other particular gods. So how did you come to the determination? Am I making sense, anybody?
I think, Dave, what he's trying to say is, like, how do you know your God is the correct God?
That's it. Thank you, Ethan.
Yes.
Yeah. So I got that. Yeah, you don't know. I mean, I don't think there is, you know, a necessarily a way to know whether or not my God is the correct God, right? So there's different versions of the Bible, right? And so like I can believe that my version of the Bible is the correct version too, right? But the reality is who's to say that like the Catholic version or the Seventh-day Adventist or whatever is the correct version? Or even to go crazy and say that, you know, Jehovah's Witness, maybe that's the right version, right? Maybe that's the right, you know, teaching. So I try not to focus too much on whether or not my God is the correct God or my Bible is the correct Bible, and just focus on the fact that there is a God. It's something to believe in, and, you know, and I look at what he's done for me in my life. And it's interesting because if you talk to people who really are into prayer, even more so than myself, you know, I think they speak upon what prayer has done for them and how it's, you know, affected their life, and how, you know, believing in the Bible and the teachings that they've learned from the Bible, how it's greatly impacted their life, you know, in a very positive way.
I have a question. And we got to move on in just a moment, but what if you're praying to the wrong God? How would you know? And are you concerned about that?
I wouldn't know. And you know what? I guess I'm not really. I mean, some religious people might be, but I don't really think about like praying because, you know, when you're praying, you just pray. You don't say, okay, you know, let's say you're Lutheran, you don't say, okay, God of the Lutherans, you know, I'm praying to you. You just to pray, right? You just pray, right? So, I mean, maybe some might pray to Allah and maybe some might pray, you know, to whoever, but for me, it's just an open prayer. You know, I have to go through Jesus to get to God and all that kind of stuff. But Well, you have a very valid question. It's a very interesting question. I love it. That I feel like there isn't really a way to know whether or not you're praying to God, but you shouldn't really, in my opinion, you shouldn't put too much focus on that, because, God is something that we can't see, right? Like, even when you go to the heavens, you can't see him. He's just like this light or whatever, from my understanding. And you'll read that in the Bible too. If you get into the Bible, you'll read how God is truly something that nobody can see, even once you've made it to heaven or whatever. It's just literally like this kind of light or whatever. And so people have tried to sketch out pictures of, based on what they've read in the Bible, what they believe God actually looks like, because nobody really knows what God actually looks like. So
Well,
I feel
Dave,
like
can I just hop on again? I'm so sorry to cut you off,
Yeah.
man. I
ahead.
know Ethan is looking at the screening rooms and stuff, and I think we have a couple of other good calls. But this was awesome, man. I just want to say I really do appreciate you coming on and chatting with us and letting us kind of. Yeah, it was absolutely a great conversation, man. And before we go, can I maybe just ask that over the next couple of days or week or month or just kind of
Sure.
just let that question that Ethan threw out at you at the end, would you just like kind of ponder on that and mull it over and see if maybe there would be a potential reason as to why it would be bad if there is a God and you're praying to the wrong one. I could think of a couple of reasons why that would be deeply, deeply important to make sure you don't get wrong. But yeah, if you just kind of, if you would just, mull it over whenever you're in the shower or cooking breakfast. I don't know if you cook breakfast or not, but anyway, man, I think great, man. Great. Well,
Cool.
I think we have a couple of other callers, and again, just thank you so much for hanging out with us, man.
Yeah, Dave, I
Absolutely.
appreciate the call. It was nice nice hearing from you again.
Yeah, you too, man. It was awesome. It was great. I loved it.
Good. I'm glad you enjoyed it. I hope you enjoy the rest of your day.
Yeah, you do the same, man.
All right, have a good one.
All right.
I liked that question, Ethan. I think
Thanks.
I think there's a really, I can think of a lot of really good reasons as to why, if there is a God, you better make sure you get the one right.
Yeah, you
I can think of
wanna
a
be
lot
fun.
of, I mean, yeah, my eternal damnation is on the line, and I would very much prefer not that. So we'll see.
And I will, yeah. So $10 super chat from Ameet Mathew, secular rarity, giving callers homework as always. Honestly,
Right.
I love that. Like, we should all, after each show, not just the callers, but the host, we should be going home with a lot of homework and
Yeah.
things to think about and hearing what these people have to say and hopefully learning something from it. And I hope the callers do too. Like, I hope he takes the time and does the homework that SR asked of him.
Yeah, I agree again, man. I think we should all be definitely constantly looking into new things, and just trying to get, really, it's so interesting to me when people want to just plant a flag in something and say, this is it and move on. Like there's just so many interesting things about a lot of different topics, and there's just no way to explore them all. Why not keep a little bit more of an open mind?
So Evan says, I thought this was an atheist page. This absolutely is. This
Yeah.
is a atheist-based show. We take callers from all different beliefs, and they'll call in with what they believe, why they believe it, and we'll talk to them about it. But yes, this is not only an atheist page, but an atheist show. You ready to get to our next caller, SR?
Heck yeah, man. What we got?
Sweet. We're going to jump back to Robin. Robin, were you able to get your prescription?
Yes, I'm so sorry about that. I had this timed out properly, and then I was like at the pharmacy, and they're like, "Well, it's not ready yet." So then I had to sit and be like, "Oh crap, I'm just gonna run into this." So
Nah, no problem. How you doing?
I'm doing great. How are you?
I am doing good, thank you. So, the important question of the day: why do you believe in God?
Yeah. So, well, first off, I guess I should say a little bit about my background
Sure.
and what I actually do think. So first and foremost, I was listening to that last caller, and I hope this doesn't come across as insulting, but I think that his evidence is largely very anecdotal, and I find that greatly insufficient. I don't think that's a reason to believe. It's just based on a personal story. You have to have something deeper than that. So I came from a
agree.
background of being very atheist. My whole life I used to watch shows like this, like there's Atheist Experience in Houston that I used to love. And I was involved in a lot of secular organizations. So I was, I'm very familiar with the common atheist arguments for things. And I do believe a lot of them do make sense. So what I had to do was to overcome that, go through and reevaluate all those things. So I don't know if you guys are familiar with like the quadrants of beliefs. That there's like Gnostic Christians, agnostic Christians, XYZ.
Yes.
Same with atheism. There's Gnostic and agnostic atheism. I guess I would define myself as an agnostic Christian, just simply because like I do believe, but I can't claim to know with 100% certainty. And I think that people that think that they can are probably lying to themselves.
I love your honesty right now.
Thanks. No, I don't mean to come across as harsh. I feel like that's what I'm sounding like. But,
No, not at all.
No. No, you're doing great.
So, I live my life as an atheist. I was recently saved this past year and a half ago about. And part of the reason was I met my partner that I'm currently with. And he's the only person I knew that could ever give me an argument that made me actually change my mind a little bit. I mean, it took months of reevaluating to actually come to a conclusion, but he was the one who kind of opened the door. He's a chemist and everything, and so he's got a lot of scientific background, just like I do. So I approach things very scientifically, and you have to give me some good evidence to think about something. So based on that, the basic premise, I guess, I would start to talk about is the definition of what God actually is. Are you guys familiar with the definition of the Hebrew word Yahweh? The actual definition for it?
I've got some knowledge, but if you can break it down in 5 seconds, I think everybody would appreciate it.
Oh yeah, no, it's super quick. Yeah, Yahweh basically in English means I am. That's all it means is I am.
I did not know that.
And that's all it means is I am. It doesn't mean anything special. That's just what Yahweh means. So if you think about that, what does I am mean? Well, that means order. That means simply what exists. It is the order that everything subjects itself to, all matter, all X, Y, Z, and the other. Basic laws of physics. I am what it is, the substance of what it is. And so, and feel free to cut me off whenever, because I'll go on. I'll just ramble and
Okay.
I've got a lot of this conversation could go a gajillion directions. So just whatever. And so based on that. The other argument that kind of goes along with that is that I forget the name of the actual theorist that came up with the argument, but everything has a beginning. I think that we can agree on, at least largely based on what we know about the universe. It definitely has a beginning. You can look at lunar trails and things like that. We know that it does have a beginning. It's not always existed the way that it has. And everything that has a beginning has a cause, and that cause has to be external to itself. The thing cannot create itself from itself. So that doesn't necessarily prove God, but that's saying, okay, we have a cause and it's something external to the system that we are looking at. So if you look at, for example, we see a car on the street, we know that the car did not create itself. The matter itself did not just self-create. It has a cause external to that.
It sounds, Robin, it sounds like, just to jump in, it sounds like you're kind of going a cosmological route. Maybe not exactly the kalam itself.
Not exactly.
But a
not
even
exactly.
Yeah, but a standard cosmological argument that's been spoken about since the 14th century, I think, is when Al-Ghazali first wrote it down. Argument that's been spoken about for.
Oops, sorry about that. I accidentally looped the audio into itself.
That's okay. But is that kind of where you're going with this second kind of understanding here?
Sort of.
Okay.
A little bit. This is more so, I'm saying it only because of the premise of everything else that I say. So it's just like setting a baseline for what I think. It's not, the end all be all of itself, because I think that'd be kind of boring. But you want me to continue, or do you want to talk about that a little bit more?
Well, I think there is already a good bit. I mean, I could jump back to the definition, the translation of Yahweh, and so forth. But for me, I think in the cosmological argument, in the understanding of things having a beginning, I think the idea that a fallible human brain is able to really distinguish the nitty-gritty when something is a tree and is not a tree. I think that's a lot more complicated than a simple premise like that encapsulates.
Oh, it's
Yeah, go
definitely
ahead.
far more complicated than that. It's definitely far more complicated than that. I just didn't want to, go into the nitty gritty of it. It's just kind of laying out a basic, 1 + 1 = 2 foundation of logic that I think most people agree with, and then you can extrapolate from there. So
Do you think
I don't
there's
know.
do you think there's any problem with just
Sorry.
waiting to see if a large enough people agree on something that's kind of basic but is actually more deeply complex, and then just moving on? Do you think maybe there's potentially some shakiness with the understanding there? If I said well, all birds fly, right? I mean, you agree, right? Most people do, right? All birds fly. Birds fly.
No, they don't. All birds don't fly. They don't all fly.
Oh, so there's some more nuance, right? There's some more complexity that
There is
maybe.
nuance. There's definitely nuance. Yeah.
So if
Well, that
if
was what I'm. Yeah. Sorry.
no,
Go ahead.
go ahead, go ahead. This is you calling us. So
Okay. Well, yeah. So yeah, there's obviously a lot more complexity. I was just laying out a foundation from which me coming from the atheist perspective, what kind of opened the door to think about it a bit more. The combination between the definition of what Yahweh actually is, what God actually is. You've got some floating mystical being out in the nether, right? It's both order in and of itself that all matter subjects itself to, as well as being the creator.
so you
And
said
it's like if you walk into like if you walk into a forest, let's say you're in a forest and you see a rubber ball, right? You look at the ball and you know that the ball didn't self-manifest; it was created. And for me, it's like, well, what got me thinking is, why does the size of the ball matter? Like if we look at Earth, why does it, because it's so big, mean that it can't itself be created? And that's not the end all be all why, I believe, but that was something that kind of got my thoughts stirring a little bit. And that kind of questioned my atheist perspective there. I was like, as an atheist, I kind of said, obviously, the universe, it's just always existed. All this matter has always existed. The order that we see is just self-created and self-manifested. I'm like, well, that doesn't actually make sense from the evidence that we see.
So it sounds like, if I may, you're giving examples of things that were created, and like a ball and a car, and because those things were created, you believe the universe was created. Is that accurate?
It's not just because of that. I'm making it very simplistic. Like,
Right.
it's, you can see something
Sure.
that exists, and we know, we kind of, in our brains, we say, well, the universe and the nature itself, this has always just existed. There's no way it was in any way created. It's just, it was existed when we existed, so we don't really think about it that much. Whereas if we look at something that we ourselves created, we're like, oh yeah, it totally makes sense that we created it. This thing didn't self-create. But then when we look at trees, stars, the universe, so around us, just because we've always existed with it doesn't mean that it itself has always existed or that it's self-created.
So do you have, Robin, off the top of your head an example of something that wasn't created? Because it sounds like right now, from the understanding that I'm getting, and please, I mean, help me out here, clarify for me if I'm mistaken, but it sounds like what you're saying is that the clock was created, that we found on the beach, that was created next to the ocean, that was created next to me, that was created. And I guess what I'm confused about is, if you only have created things, how do you know they're created?
Well, let's go back to the definition of Yahweh again, if you will. By created, I think when atheists hear the word created, they think of it as kind of a mystic and magical thing. That's not what I think.
Okay.
Creation in itself is subject to Yahweh. I am order. Well, we're going back to that again. Order is what created it, which is, laws, nature. I believe in evolution, all that stuff, because we have, evidence of that. And so it's not like it just suddenly appeared. It formed over a large amount of time, which is subject to, the laws of nature itself. That, again, going back to that, original Hebrew definition of what God is. He didn't just, spin a wand and it appeared. It is subject to the order itself. So don't know if you wanted to
sounds
do-
like it almost sounds like to me when you're using the understanding I am, it almost sounds like you're encapsulating the three fundamental laws of logic, just that A equals A is not A, and then no middle ground in
Well, it
there.
has to. I mean, if something is to make sense, it can't be magical. It can't be something that isn't observable. It has to make sense logically. It can't be a magical thing that appeared, which is what some creationists kind of think. It
So
has to actually match what we know.
So is the creator bound to those laws of logic? Could God not have created?
Yeah, or because he is himself is order, right? He's not. When people think of, are we gonna? I think this is gonna go into the omnipotent point of view, which is where, well, if God is bound to these rules, that means he's not truly omnipotent. Well,
Sure.
no, omnipotence is in itself bound to its own rules. So something's creating, and if something is order in and of itself, it is bound to that order as well that is created.
I guess
That
it seems to me like when you're using the term order in part of that sentence, it seems to me that you're giving it a different definition than the second time that you're using it in the sentence. And I could be vastly misunderstanding, but it
you'll have
almost
to explain that to me.
yeah, it sounds like there's a period of time where the ontology of what you're calling order changes for you. There's a moment where it's a categorization, and then there's a moment where it's a definable object of some type almost. That's how it seems to me when you're using.
Yeah, so I mean, again, going back to the definition of God as being in and of itself order, it's both God and it is also the order that is created that we witness here. So God's presence on earth is the order that we witness and all the things they're subject to. Because that's literally what a God is. God is what rules over everything.
But
it encapsulates both.
How do we know that though?
Yeah.
We don't. That's why I'm agnostic.
Oh, yeah, you did say
I
that.
know that for certain. No, I don't know that for certain. I don't claim to know that for certain. To me, based on the evidence that I see in the world, that makes sense. But I can't claim to know that with all certainty. But based on what I see and based on the basic principles of logic, I'm like, okay, we can at least open the door to the rest of this, which goes into, for me, the next step of, okay, maybe there's a God, was exploring Christ. And why the Christian definition of Yahweh and order itself makes sense. Would you like to explore that a little bit, or would you like to stay on the topic of just basic premise of God?
That's up to you, Mr. Michael.
I was just going to ask what you wanted to do.
I mean, I think honestly, right now, there's so much we could go for. But yeah, please,
Right.
if you have a question, go.
Yeah. You keep referring to an order. What do you mean by what order are you referring to?
Order, yeah. So if we look at things like basic laws of physics, they're formulations that we ourselves can identify and see that all things are subject to. So like, I don't know, go into any physical law, any equation that you see, that we see that everything subjects itself to naturally, right? Do you think that order itself has just always existed, and those things have just always just naturally flowed into state with no start, rhyme, or reason? Or is there some sort of something behind that, which we know that it didn't self-create, right? It may make more sense that there is something behind it rather than the order. We know that the order itself and everything that all matter is subject to, as well as matter itself, did not always exist. We know that for a fact, and we know that
real quick,
things don't self-manifest.
Sorry to interrupt, but real quick, are you able to get closer to the microphone?
Oh yeah, is this a little bit better?
Yes, perfect.
Or I can take it off. I'm on speaker because I'm a little bit hard of hearing. The speaker is easier for me.
Oh, okay.
But if not, I can.
Yeah, if you could just talk as close to the mic as possible, that would be good. Just because at times it gets hard to hear you.
You said you have a science background, Robin. I'm just wondering what is that background, if you don't mind.
Oh yeah. So I mean, I was top of my class in high school. I was always into science. I was valedictorian for a little bit. Graduated. 4 out of 800 students, and then I moved on with a full ride to University of Alabama studying microbiology. I worked in an organic chemistry lab for a little bit, and then actually moved on to nursing because I was pre-med wanting to be a neurologist, and then decided I didn't want to quite go to school for that long.
Sure,
So I took
sure.
the nursing route instead. So I'm currently in the pursuit of my nursing degree.
So what would you say is your best understanding when it comes to the instantiation of the universe as it exists? Like which model in physics do you think is the best one here for how the universe came to be?
Right. So if you look at, I mean, we can see the cosmic trails. So we see that the universe itself is constantly expanding. That's something that we pretty much know for a fact. And we also can see that planets have moved from a singular point in the universe, that starting point. So I guess I would say the Big Bang is what makes sense.
Well, the Big Bang isn't,
Everything
if I could just jump in, and this could be a misunderstanding on my part for sure. I'm no expert. I'll very proudly claim my own ignorance here. But
Same.
if I'm understanding right, the Big Bang actually isn't an understanding of how the universe really began, but more inflated.
Right, 'cause
Where
we
do
don't
you
know
think?
how the
Where do
universe-
you think? Yeah, where do you think the Big Bang came from? Which model do you think is better in terms of the creation of our universe?
Are you talking about like going more in depth in the Big Bang itself? Because I mean, I guess I could just say I'm not an expert on the Big Bang either.
Well, no, that's okay. Neither am I, Robin. But I guess what I was trying to get at, which is something that is a theme for me in my life all the time, where I hear somebody make a pretty bold claim. I think that you've made about the beginning of the universe. I think to really, stand on any soapbox and try to express the knowledge of the creation of our universe and space-time and 12-dimensional dodecahedrons and all that crazy stuff. I'm confused. I'm confused why you would stand on any particular stance, because my understanding is that some of the greatest, smartest, most hardworking and educated nerds out there who really, really work on this physicsy stuff, they don't have an answer.
I don't claim to have an official, like I don't claim to know this for 100% fact.
But you seem to be really comfortable with making some claims based on a model that it sounds like you don't know which one, and I don't know which one to pick either. I don't know which one to pick, but I think it gets very difficult if we're making really large claims about where things started or how they got here and so forth. If ultimately we don't have a good answer for that, it seems kind of difficult, 12, 13 steps down the line to really have any grounding. Does that make sense?
No, it makes sense, but you also have to understand that in our everyday life, we do this all the time. We don't have a great understanding of very many things. We operate based on basic models and theories, and they're based on what we witnessed in the world. So, I mean, for a lot of medicines and everything, too, we don't even know exactly how they work. We just see that they do work, and we see the effects of them, but we don't necessarily claim to know anything about their mechanisms. I don't claim to know anything about the mechanisms of exactly how it was done. I don't claim to know that at all. I don't think anybody really knows at this point the mechanism. It's just a basic fundamental
mechanism
of what I've explained before.
If I'm understanding, though, it sounds like the mechanism was God. It sounds like you do make claims about the mechanism.
No, I'm not saying I make claims about the causality of what's going on. I don't claim to know the exact step-by-step of what everything he did, the exact intrinsics of the mechanism.
Sure.
By mechanism, I mean the conventional definition of mechanisms, at least from a scientific perspective, is the step-by-steps and everything that goes into it.
Right.
Not necessarily, I'm talking about the cause of the mechanism itself.
So if we could, because we only got like a moment left before we got to move on, what If you had to simplify your most compelling reason for believing in God, what is it?
For a Christian God, at least, is the history of Christ. I mean, we have 4 canonical things. Like from a historical evidence perspective, that are eyewitness testimony from our, what we can see, and that in and of itself. I mean, if Christ is true, if his story is true, and what those eyewitnesses were claiming is true, then that's pretty compelling evidence right there. If we accept that.
Can I give you some homework, Robin?
It's interesting. Yeah.
Are you sure? It's okay. It's not too
Rarity.
much. I have way too many worthless.
Can I guess on what the homework is? Can I guess on what the homework is, though? Because
Can
I've
you-
probably already done it. That's the thing.
Okay. Yeah. If you can guess the author's name, the scholar's name that I'm going to point you towards as a jumping off point, I will convert right now to Christianity. I'll give you 2 tries or 3 even.
2 tries. I thought you were going to go into exploring the evidence of the canons being actual eyewitness accounts.
Nope. Looking for an author name.
The direction you're going to lead me into.
Oh, okay. Well,
so that's not that I'm wrong.
That's okay.
I mean,
it's
we
kind
know-
of in that vein, but there's just a really cool scholar. His name is Dennis R. MacDonald, and I've found a lot of very interesting things in his works over the years, and I think you might as well.
Okay.
Especially if you like history.
And I was sorry, go ahead.
That's it.
And then, Robin, I would love
okay.
for you to call back sometime, because I would love on another occasion to discuss eyewitness testimony and the resurrection, and if we should consider that reliable.
Yeah. I've got tons of things to talk about in that terms. I've also got from my own personal experience. Again, I don't base my beliefs in anecdotal evidence, but I've got a lot of experience with demonology in my life that I've recently overcome.
Sorry, did you say demonology?
Yeah, no, encounters with the demonic.
Okay.
Yes, you need to call back about that, Robin.
Yeah, definitely. If you next week we have 2 great hosts, one former minister and the other a regular on the show. If you're free next week or any Tuesday, we're here every single week, different hosts, but would love to talk the demonology or the resurrection if you're open to it.
Yeah, that'd be great. Yeah, totally open to that.
Awesome. Well, in 1 minute or less, we can give you the last word before we let you go.
Yeah, sure. I mean, I encourage everybody to go. There's a great book called Case for Christ. I thought that was an excellent piece that helped me in my early understanding. And I also say, if you're going to start off from somewhere, it's easy to start off with the canon. So read the 4 Gospels, see what you think, explore their history, explore the reasons why all the apostles, decided to lay down their lives for an eyewitness thing that occurred to them. And yeah, that's about it. I appreciate the time.
Thank you, Robin, and I hope you have a good rest of your night.
You too. Bye-bye.
Bye.
That was a good call, man. What do you think?
Yeah, it was fun.
I
I was surprised. I didn't expect it caught me off guard a little bit when she said she used to be an atheist. I didn't know that. And then also when she had said she watched the Atheist Experience and stuff, I was not expecting that. And I did get in the beginning of the call fairly excited when she admitted that she could not claim to know their is a God, because I think that is more on an honest position to hold.
Yeah, and I don't know. I think kind of what I said earlier. I a lot of times in these discussions, I feel like there's somebody saying, "I have a box. I know the box is there. You see the box. You know the box is there. We can't open it. We can't see inside of it, but there's something in it, and I know what that something is." And that's always difficult for me. That was one of the biggest things that ended up making me, into the heathen sinner that I am today. Right. I kept having to finally rest my laurels on this understanding of, oh, I don't understand. And not only I don't understand, but even like, I don't think it's possible. And if I accept both of those, well, how could I accept a conclusion based on those, right? Well, I still think it was a really good call, man. I still think it
Yeah,
was
so
lots
far
of fun.
I love that we, almost always get nice callers. Like
Yeah.
if all shows could run that smoothly, that'd be
Well,
awesome.
it's you. You attract nice people, except for me. And there's one or two of the YouTube mods. I think they know who I'm talking about.
Well, I've attracted some rude people too. That's for sure.
That's a good point. There was a particular unmentionable.
There's
do
a
we ha-
few unmentionables that we shouldn't even say their name to give any credence to them. So yeah, those who shall not be named.
That's right, man. Well, do we have another good call?
We have a couple more callers. So the next caller says, God and angels are labels we put on the creator that is all energy and vibration. Oh, before I pick her up, I just want to read this super chat from left, right, left. I wish to suggest YFNA merch store. Obviously, a line of Ethan's t-shirts with cats. That's a good idea. So I do have a merch store. It's not really that good, if I'm being honest. Like, I'm still learning how to use the site. The link is in the description. It's teespring.com/stores/YFNAtheist. I don't know. If anyone has any suggestions or knows how to help me with merch stuff, I'd be open to that, because I would love to have some more cool merch, especially like these t-shirts. I would love to see more people in t-shirts like these. And I do even have one with a bunch of cats on it.
Hey, comment below, guys. There's a little spot underneath the video. You can just type out comments, say things like, here's a great suggestion for merch for you. Like, right? That'd be perfect. That's an easy way.
Suggestions, and if people know how to create like better merch stores or merchandise in general, I could use the help. So yeah,
you know what to do.
Let's get our caller up here. Sherry, you are on with Secular Rarity and Ethan. How are you doing today?
Hi, it's Sherry. How are you?
Good. Yourself?
Good.
I'm okay. Time caller in. Should I be on speaker or does it matter?
No, don't be on speaker. Be on your handset. That's for the best audio quality, please.
Okay, I'm on handset.
Perfect. That's why you probably sound loud and clear. That was the only downfall of the first two callers, is they were kind of quiet, but this one is nice and loud, so we can hear you clearly. So cool. What do you got for us?
Jennifer was very interesting. She started out really great with Yahweh and I am. Absolutely. So, but let's go with I am can mean I am is everything. It can be your soul, your everything. Okay, I believe God is a label. I've read the Bible, I traced, and it only gave me more questions than answers. So I kept digging and researching for 30 plus years, and I still have more questions than answers.
Same.
But I believe it's all about energy and vibration. We can call it a creator. There's an ultimate creator, but I believe that's the ultimate Zen, the ultimate white light of pure love, ecstasy, nothing, outside of a physical world. The Bible, I think, one, we're missing a lot of things out of the Bible that were written. I think it's 66 books were taken from out of the Bible. The book of Enoch, Noah's grandfather, was taken out of the Bible. And that talks about all kinds of watchers. And, I'm a big Ancient Aliens fan. So I think we've mistaken.
I love talking aliens.
Yeah, me too. I'm big in, I've been studying the Anunnaki and the Sumerian gods for 3 years now. So
they are pretty cool.
I just think people need to understand it, believe in something higher than yourself. But I also believe that, okay, a certain person told me prayer is nagging. Okay. You say it once or twice, give it to the universe, have faith and belief, and manifest it back to yourself. Give out positive, you're going to get back positive. You want to throw out negative to the universe, you're going to get negative back. Does prayer
Sherry, can I
work?
ask a question?
Sure, but I think it's about the vibration.
Sherry, can I ask a question? Because I'm a little confused, and I want to make sure that we're on the same page. Are you saying that the description of God, Yahweh, Elohim, in the Bible is just really a broader label for energy that is also in this kind of karmic sense that kind of comes back to you if you do good things or bad things? Are you saying those are the same?
In a sense, absolutely. I believe that there is the highest of high, and we have to give it a label, whether it be Buddha, Allah, God, whatever. But it's the highest of high that we try to achieve, of a pure, the highest zen of vibration that you can be, which is the creator. I don't know how else to say it.
Yeah, I'm still a bit
but
confused. But go ahead,
okay,
Ethan.
so
I guess what I'm wondering is why why do you believe in God
Yeah.
or
well,
vibrations or
I don't
something
know that I
eternal?
believe in God. I believe in, I guess you would say it's the karmic thing. What you give out, you get back. I think it's about energy, all about energy.
So
I
what do
don't know
you
that we can finger God, say it's a God.
so what do you mean when you say energy? When I think of energy, like for instance, I tend to think of like I made some tacos earlier. They were okay, I'll be honest. Like I didn't do as good as I thought I could have. But the stove, I click the button on the stove and then the stove gets like hot and it's red, and if I touch it, it hurts. Like that's electricity, that's energy, that's like particles moving past each other. Is that what you mean by energy?
Absolutely. It's okay. Well, let's take it a little bit higher. When you rub your
Sure.
feet on the carpet and you touch somebody and it's static thing, energy. It's vibration. It's like music. You wouldn't hear music unless it was giving out a vibration.
So
You
it
get
sounds
that?
like you're
Yeah.
just kind of putting this vibration or energy label on God. Is that accurate?
Yes, but I guess if you want to get to the point, do I believe in a God? The more I've researched and studied, probably not. I believe that the universe gives back what you put out.
Okay, so
That's
the
interesting.
more you've studied, the less you believe in a God. So you're open to the possibility that there's no God.
Oh, absolutely. I'm open to anything. That's what you need to be, open-minded, and continue to research, and what works for you works for you. But I do believe there is an ultimate height somewhere you want to achieve. I believe, like people in the Bible, it says you have to go and answer to God. I don't believe we answer to God. I believe we answer to ourselves when we die. I think we see and reflect on the life we had here so we can do better.
Okay, so
if we have to come back.
Why do you think that?
Yeah.
Because I believe it's all lessons so that we can reach the ultimate zen of the highest of high, which we tend to call God. And that's where I'm stuck after all these years of
Sherry,
research of
are you
is there one particular person that's the creator, or not person, but manifestation that is the ruler of all of this?
sure?
So
Are you saying
I
that
don't know.
we get a second chance, like we have another life, like reincarnate? It sounded like you said this life is more or less lessons so that we can achieve that highest of Zen. Do we get to come back? Is that your understanding?
I believe we can if we'd like to, if we want to. Yes.
Okay.
Sure.
So what
Yeah.
about when you say we get into, I have so many questions,
I
but
know,
one of
I
them
know.
is when you say we get back what we put into it, what about all the people around the world that are suffering and will suffer or starve for the rest of their lives? Why are they getting the short end of the stick? Are they putting out bad vibrations and therefore they're suffering?
No. Oh, okay, let's get really deep into this, which I've been studying lately too. Robert Schwartz in a book called Our Soul's Gift. And what it is that we pre-plan everything before we come to the physical earth. We pick our parents, we pick what life we're going to live, what
So
lessons we're going to go through.
if I may interject, so you do believe then, like, in a full-on, like, I guess you could say you probably believe in a soul and some type of consciousness. So right now, when I die, you think like my brain, my consciousness is going to live on. Is that correct?
I believe that our soul is made of energy, of DNA. Some part of our DNA and everything goes back out into the universe, and it's all out in the universe, and it's all mental telepathy out there, and it's just. Oh gosh, I wish I could come up with the right words. I've always put on when I feel like I'm put on the spot, it doesn't come out.
You're doing great, Sherry. Don't worry.
I guess what I'm wondering is, why do you believe all of this though? Like, what convinced you?
Well, years and years of research, and the Bible never made sense to me when I was put into organized religions. I kept asking priests well, how did Noah get all them animals on that ark? They never made sense to me. And so, and then when people would die, or suffering and kids being abused, I just wanted to know, why did these things happen? And over my 30 plus years in a family that we believe in all the metaphysical, astrology, psychology, demonology, or psychic abilities, I was told, we were taught these can happen and not organized religion. But I did read the Bible. I did go to other churches and check them out. They never made sense to me at all. So that's why I kept studying and getting back to where I am now in ancient Samaria.
Sherry, if I could try and maybe refocus what Ethan was just asking, and Ethan, please tell me if I'm wrong on this, brother. I think what he's no, you're doing great, by the way. I think what Ethan was kind of trying to get at was, not so much of what was the process that you went through. Like, okay, we looked at the Vedas, and the Vedas were wrong. We looked at, Buddhist scripture, they were wrong. I guess what he was asking, and what I'm asking too, is, is there something you can point us to that should make us believe in this energy understanding that you have, just like it made you believe?
Just years and years of advice from my family and other teachers on the same level, and with my belief system throughout the years, and asking questions of saying, okay, writing down, I would like these things, certain things in my life, putting them in a jar and asking the universe to deliver that to me. 6 months later, I go through the jar, see what's happened and what hasn't. And then what hasn't I can also see in hindsight why that shouldn't have happened, because my path went this way. So I think it's just been years of trying this versus that to this. Can I tell you, can I convince anybody or you guys? No. I think it takes faith.
Sherry, can I jump in for a second real quick?
Sure.
So have you ever heard the story of the greatest archer in all the land? He always hits a bullseye every single time, right? He kills it. There's nobody that can hit the target better than him. And one day a buddy of his comes up to him and he says, "You're the best archer in the land. How are you so good? How do you always get the center of the bullseye?" And the archer looks at him and says, "Well, I shoot first and draw the circle after." Do you have you ever heard of that understanding that's called counting the hits and ignoring the misses? Are you familiar with that phrase? So this
but I think I get what you're saying.
Yeah, it sounded to me like, just right there, for instance, that there's a jar of different things that you've written down, whether they're wants or desires or just hopes or general good / potentially bad things that you've written down on pieces of paper. And it sounded like to me what you said there was, I can go back and look through all of these that are still in my jar. And when I see one that's come true, I can say, there it is. There's my bullseye. And when I look at the other ones, I can come to the understanding as to why I shouldn't have gotten that, or why my path diverged in such a way. And what that sounds like to me is drawing the circle for the bullseye after you've shot the arrow. Does that make sense?
I can understand what. Yes, it does. So I think that was a really bad example on my part because I did that when I was young. It's okay. Gosh, let me put this in.
Well, in the meantime,
it just goes back to, I believe everything is just lessons to the point of there are no, it's just lessons here. Otherwise, why would we be here? What is this purpose in being here if it's not to further something out after this life, this physical life?
Why not?
I have one last question. Do you think faith is a reliable path to truth? Especially knowing that we have, you don't?
No.
Then why?
I think you have to have faith and belief in what you want to attract it to you, going back to energy. You're going to attract what you put out. If you really want good things in your life, you have to put out positive vibration, positive thinking, positive to get that back to you.
I get what I get part of what you're trying to say. To me, I think good people, I don't know. I've noticed a difference in my life since I started being more concerned with others and less concerned in myself. I've noticed a difference. Do I think that's linked to any type of special energy? No, I just think that's, how life works out. If you're good to other people, they'll be good to you. But if faith is not a reliable path to truth, why are you using it to believe?
Good question.
Because I think that having faith and a belief in something higher than ourselves is going to make you a better person, have a happier life, a more positive outcome in your life. And I would rather be right in having faith and some kind of belief than wrong on the other side. If I believe in nothing, then maybe I'm going to end up in what they so-called purgatory and go nowhere.
If you don't you think that if you get to a God and you find out you're praying to the wrong God, don't you think you would be just as upset as if you weren't praying to him at all?
And I loved when that you brought that up to one of your earlier callers. I think okay, like I said before, those are just labels. Buddha, Allah, everything. It's just what they named the higher power, the higher creator, the I am. I think it's all the same when they're praying or, praying, or talking to the universe or sending it out to the universe, whatever they're doing, it's to really the same energy, the same creator, whatever you want to call it or label it as. I say it's the highest of energy.
Secular Rarity, do you have any last questions? Because we got to move on to this next caller in a moment. But if you want to wrap this up in a little bit, please do.
Yeah, I'll just end it off by saying, Sherry, thank you for calling us. As I've said every single time I've ever been on here with anybody that we've gotten a chance to talk to, I think there's great value in people coming from different sides and different perspectives like this show, and just kind of having friendly chats and listening to people and trying to push back respectfully. I think the idea that we need to believe in something higher, it scares me a little bit, to be honest, because like I said, I think with the first caller, I don't understand a lot of times why we would want to attribute the greatness that we ourselves have inside of us and that all of us do as people to something other than us. I understand why we would want to attribute the badness in the universe to something outside of us, because it makes us feel just a step away from it and like, well, we couldn't have done anything anyways. And that goes down a whole route of free will and stuff.
I disagree with him on that, because I believe that you have to believe in yourself and want these things for yourself and praise yourself before you praise anything else, though.
Well, again, I just...
Because you have to do it within yourself before you can praise anybody else for it. It has to come from you first, the I am.
Well, Sherry, I think it was an absolutely wonderfully interesting conversation, and if you'd like, I mean, please, there's a time slot, baby, 7 p.m. Central Time, right here every Tuesday. Hang back with us and call in to some other people and get their thoughts on it too. If you want, we'd absolutely love it. So.
Yeah, thank you, Sherry.
Definitely. I want to hear next week's about the demonology and other things you're getting into.
And maybe we'll get some alien calls
That'll
too.
Be very interesting.
Yeah. Normally we actually we normally also get calls with about ghosts and aliens too. It just so happens today all of our calls have been about God, but we usually have a pretty good variety. So Sherry, thank you for waiting.
Guess what? I'd rather go for the alien ones, so maybe I'll call in on that one.
That would be awesome. Awesome. Thank you so much for taking the time to speak with us today, Sherry.
Yeah, thank you, and thanks for reaching out. Have a good night, you guys.
You too. I'll talk to you later.
Bye-bye.
Bye. I have to admit I'm a bit more confused, but I do have some hope. I think that caller is traveling towards our direction.
Yeah, and I think there's when we get to the place where we're really comfortable with these very fuzzy understandings of claims that we're accepting, that we're basing our life on, it definitely does make me concerned. Like I said, I think it's great that God has been pushed back to smaller and smaller gaps. And what I mean by that is just the idea that we can just answer any question with energy or spirits or supernatural. I'm glad to see the ground that they hold receding. I really am.
Right.
But I don't think we have to. I don't even think we can. I don't think we can force people into that space, right? The only way to do it is just to have conversations and
having these conversations as often as possible, which I'm going to keep doing. I've also, what I wanted to start doing is, because there are people who reach out to me that want to call in, but this time slot doesn't work for them.
Yeah.
I'd like to set up like a secondary time slot and maybe get a couple hosts together, and then we can do some pre-recordings of like individual calls, and then we can air them on the Perspective or just post them at a later time. So,
cool.
yeah, I really got to put that together, because it's a shame. There is a good amount of people that, we've missed out on simply because of this time slot.
I'm honestly just surprised that you're volunteering yourself for more work, but
you know me.
That's you, buddy.
Dude, I want this channel to be built into a full-on network one day, and that means I got to put in the work. In fact, I've slowed down a little bit in the past, like couple months, only because I'm trying to pace myself accordingly. Because when I first started this, I was like, shows. This is before you knew me, Secular Rarity. There was times I was doing shows literally every day, like 2 weeks straight.
That's crazy. That's crazy.
I was
man.
just nonstop show.
That's a lot.
I was even hosting comedy shows I got some local comedians to get together during the pandemic, and we would virtual stream, comedy shows, and we'd play games. And like, I did so much stuff, and now I've kind of learned the things I want to focus the most on. The only thing I've been lacking in, which I miss doing, is interviews. I want to get back into those. I just want to find the right people to interview. Like yesterday, I got to sit down with Alice Gretchen. If you haven't seen that yet, I know people highly recommend their own content, but I am specifically highly recommending this episode. It was really one of my favorite interviews. We talked mystical experiences, psychedelics, pizza, sex. We covered so many different topics, and Alice is a brilliant actress, and hopefully we'll get to see her on YFNA again someday.
Yeah, it was a truly, truly awesome episode. And Ethan, if I could just say this real quick, you don't have to bear this burden alone. There are people out there watching this show right now, and people out there that will watch this show in the future, and they know what to do. They know there's a like button down there that they should be pressing. They know there is a bell that they should be clicking for notifications, and they know how to share these videos. And I don't have faith in faith, but I have faith right now, man. Y'all are going to do this.
You have reasonable confidence.
Exactly. I have reasonable confidence because I know some of those people in the chat, and they are great people that are going to do all of those things. And that's it. That's just the way it's going to be. We know that it's going to happen, man. So, and definitely y'all need to go see the interview from yesterday. Alice is hilarious.
Yeah, she is. Before we get to our last call, I would like to thank our patrons: Cindy Plaza, Left Right Left, Kenneth Leonard, Skye, JumpandShoot, Oz, Secular Rarity, Philip Leitch, Kaitlyn Beyond, Toast, Richard Gilliver, Sunset Sarge, Ameet, Mathew, Ray Sylvester, and Kyle Brewer. Thank you all for your patronage. If you want to support the show, because yes, doing these shows does cost money, especially running the phone lines. It gets expensive. So consider becoming a patron for just $1 a month. Link is in the description. Also, if you can't become a patron, no problem. Share this video. Believe it or not, every viewer we get helps. We need to find more callers. We need to find more viewers. I want to grow this channel. So if you can't become a patron, share it. It really does make a difference. I know recently, I don't want to say this person's name wrong. So here, I'll just put their comment on screen. I'm sorry. I don't know how to say your name. It might be Faya or Faya, but they have recently shared the video, and we got a bunch of people back from it. So please, sharing definitely makes a difference. Kenneth Leonard, thank you for the $5 super chat. Secular Rarity's eyebrows deserve their own channel. Yes, they do.
You're right. They have a mind of their own. It's the energy, I think. I don't know. I'm not positive.
And for those that don't know, we do an after show in Discord. So when the perspective ends, go to the YFNA Discord. We all, ourselves, the mods, we got in a group chat. We talk. You can ask us any questions and chat with us.
Yeah.
But are you ready to get to our last caller?
I can't believe it's that time already, but I'm here for it, man.
Well, this is going to be a change in pace because they want to talk about militant atheism.
Ooh.
Evan from Canada, you are on with Secular Rarity and Ethan. How are you?
Not too bad. How are you guys doing?
Doing well,
Good.
thank you. So you want to talk militant atheism?
Yes.
Please proceed.
Well, I mean, I got to be honest. I've never watched your show. First time watcher, first time caller, obviously.
Thank you
for hanging.
It was an interesting show, and my perspective of it changed as watching it through the show.
I hope in a good way.
Good.
Yeah. I mean, my opinion definitely got better.
Good.
At first, I was a bit perturbed by the fact that you weren't pushing back and you were joining in on some nonsensical nonsense. There's a fine line between, researching and understanding historical facts or not historical facts even, as just historical stories and expounding them as some kind of belief. And I worry that on first viewing that you guys were not pushing back hard enough, and it was more endorsing that first viewer or first caller's point of view.
So I mean,
the general population does need general population does need pushback.
So I agree, but where we may not agree is how much pushback, because there are, plenty of other shows that push back a lot harder. Some don't push back at all. It's genuinely trying to find the balance, because the thing is, I want to get through to the people calling in my shows. And if we just push back on every little mistake or fallacy they make, we're not going to get anywhere. They're going to clam up, shut down, and stop listening to us. And I want to get through to these people. So I think it's important that sometimes you do have to let certain fallacies or points slide to try and further the conversation and to get them thinking more. Like, I prefer a straight epistemology approach where I'm just asking questions. But doing it live, I'll be the first to admit, it's incredibly hard to determine how much pushback. Every call is different. You're in front of a live audience, and sometimes we're going to push back harder, and sometimes we're going to push back lighter. There's been episodes where I've unfortunately seen some, I've yelled or screamed at some guy, and, we've had angry callers, people hanging up. We had a psychic freaking out on us once before, her and her daughter. Like, we've had some knockdown, drag out arguments, but largely we try to be as friendly as possible. But again, it's trying to find that line.
And if I can just kind of dovetail real quick, it just want to, part of my thoughts when I go into this, and not just here, but in other discussions that I have in my daily life, I really, really try hard whenever I hear somebody say something that gives me that squinty eye, raise the eyebrow, I don't know if I'm feeling that kind of feeling. I try to take an extra second to say, wait a second, Elliot, what are they going for? What is the best interpretation of what they just said? I think what they just said on the face is just some stanky bullshit. But what is their best understanding? Because if I only understand it from the kind of cheap, oh, this is crap, move on kind of feeling, I'm concerned that I'll be, constructing a straw man, right? And it would be much better to take the time to really try and understand the best possible argument that they have, and then go from there. Does that kind of make sense where Ethan and I come from on it?
Understand.
Yeah.
totally understand. And you know what? On reflection and on listening to your show, I totally understand. It's a fine line to walk,
Sure.
you know, between that, especially as you're trying to, you know, draw in those callers.
Yeah.
You know, that's the show that you guys are trying to play. I totally understand. And, you know, maybe my call is inappropriate, but
No, not at all.
just on general view of the world, and, you know, in my daily experience of life, I encounter religion being pushy on me, and I understand that sometimes people are ignorant in their pushiness.
Yeah.
But I think that atheists need to be pushier back. We need to push back. We need to, you know, as I see, you know, ignorance in bliss and the religion, how they push their religion, you know, in so much as that these 17 people who were just kidnapped in Haiti, for example,
yeah.
you know, they're stupid, to be honest. They're dumb. What the hell they doing? They're walking into the that fellow who jumped
can I
onto
jump
the
in
island
for a
and shot
second?
arrows in the back from Aboriginals. Like, what are you doing?
Can I jump in for a second there, brother?
It's crazy.
Hang on. Do you mind if I kind of jump in real quick? Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Awesome. Let me, because this is what I hopefully maybe I can demonstrate kind of where I come from on this. So I'm very familiar with the missionaries that were fired upon and then kidnapped, and I believe now the gang is attempting to ransom them for about $7 million American dollars. I'm familiar with
17 million.
Yeah, I'm familiar with the assassination of the president that recently happened in Haiti as well. So let me kind of push back a little, because I think I understand where you're coming from about the general population, you know, needing to be pushed back on and so forth. But do you think
we get trampled on?
Well, do you think?
Burnt at the stake?
Well, hang on, brother. Do you think that there's a necessity that I yell, or that I respond in a manner that's particularly forceful or rude?
No. Not at all.
Do you think right now, for instance, one could pretty reasonably argue that old secular Rarity boy, he's standing his ground at the moment with this caller and respectfully pushing back on a nuanced understanding of what they just said? Do you think that's a fair understanding of what's going on between you and me right now?
How are you pushing back?
Well, so for instance, I think calling the missionaries dumb is a little bit reductionist. I think it's a little bit of trying to put them in a light where they're the person.
Yeah, that's the first time you made the argument. So if you're trying to make the argument that now, okay.
Well, what I'm saying is that since I stepped in just a moment ago, I wouldn't characterize my discussion with you as either rude or as either one where I'm getting trampled over, in which you're just, you know, ramming your ideas down my throat or anything. And I think what I'm trying to demonstrate and trying to get at, and one of the reasons that I definitely love Ethan and love this channel, is that we do have the ability to push back, but we don't necessarily have to get so hot about it all the time, right?
Exactly.
Yep. Okay. I didn't try to come across hot.
I don't think you have.
I'm not trying to attack you.
No. I don't think you have at all. And I
you're
think
taking offense by anything I'm saying. I'm not trying to attack you at the slightest. I'm saying I may
Can you
have
been
been completely in the wrong in making the phone call.
Can you hang on just a second for us, brother? Because I apologize if it came off that I was feeling attacked or anything. I sure don't. This chair isn't super comfy, I'll be honest. I could probably get a comfier cushion, but I'm in no way, shape, or form uncomfortable. What I'm trying to say, though, is I think there is great value in pushing back in a manner that is calm and reflective on oneself and how I'm being in the situation. For instance, I live in Tennessee, where there is quite literally a church a stone's throw away from each other, and I don't throw stones very far. And what I'm saying is, when somebody comes up to me, for instance, and says, Jesus, I can just simply say, hey, I don't believe in Jesus. And that, I think, is valuable pushback. Do you disagree with that?
No, not in the slightest. I mean, you're probably being more militant than I am in that sort of action. I mean, I live in Bible Belt in British Columbia here, man. I am surrounded by
For
Bible thumpers, let me tell you. But, you know, at the same time, I'm at a loss as what I should be doing to push back. I'm a world traveler. I've studied religions. I understand the world, how it is. I don't know. I don't know what to do. I would love to push back harder. I don't know what to do.
Can I give you some unsolicited, kind of not really advice? I'm no expert. I really shouldn't be giving you advice. But can I give you some advice?
Sure.
My thoughts, brother, are speak to people pretty much like you've been speaking to us. I think you've been respectful. I don't think you've been a dick at all. I think you've been challenging in some manners. You've said some things that maybe I don't totally agree with, or maybe you need to clarify. And then once we come to that understanding, I think this whole time, for instance, you and I have had a back and forth that while we don't necessarily see eye to eye, we kind of seem to be looking in the same direction. And I think that's really valuable. Even if we're not 100% on the same page, you've been respectful as fuck, man. I mean, if I could just be blunt, right? Like we're all laughing, we're having fun, and that's a good way to model these discussions.
And that's what I would take into your own personal life. Like when
Exactly.
only if it's safe, of course.
Right.
Like if outing yourself is going to put you in danger or cause you any loss of family or friends,
Absolutely.
then of course I'm not going to say, hey, start pushing back. But it can just be in, conversations with your friends when they bring up God or bring up praying. Hey, why do you pray? Do you think praying is reliable? Just simple questions in everyday life to encourage people to think critically and apply skepticism sometimes is all you need to do. And if you start doing that, I would say that's a good thing. We need more people doing that. Yeah. So that would be my unsolicited advice.
And I don't want to make it sound like I'm against those places and times where, hey, look, you don't believe in God, right? I don't believe in God. Ethan doesn't believe in God. Can you believe these people out there eating the crackers, drinking the grape juice, talking about their God, coming back as a bowl of crackers? It's crazy. Look, we can take our times and our spaces to maybe go a little bit off the chain, go a little bit more unhinged, because we all need those spaces to kind of be ourselves and to just kind of let loose a little bit. But when it comes to us engaging purposefully in a dialogue where we know the other person disagrees, it's not a good tactic, I think, to call them crazy, right? Or to say they're fucking idiots, what a bunch of jackass. That's probably not the best way to
I didn't call them that.
No. And again, I
gotta admit, you're a missionary. You're jumping in a canoe and going to a place that you're told that these people are like really aggressive. They're gonna kill you. You step foot on their island. They've told other people, other natives that, look, you step foot on our island, we're gonna shoot you with arrows. And these guys step foot on the island. What do you call that? You say that you know the story well. What would you call that? What would you call those people?
Well, you're talking about the Sri Lankan.
They're definitely ill-informed. They're definitely that.
I would say ignorant. Ill-informed.
Yeah, definitely ignorant.
Misguided. But I don't want to go as far as to start directly like attacking someone and calling them stupid or crazy. Like those are labels I would rather avoid.
Right. Here's
the root of it. Okay. Life is beautiful. As an atheist, you should be able to appreciate life. You shouldn't need the church. You shouldn't need religion.
Agreed.
100%.
You know what? We are nothing but more than intelligent dirt. I put that in the chat, and I was hoping somebody would pick up on it. But realistically, we're the universe recognizing ourselves. We don't need the church. Life is beautiful. Existence is incredible.
Yeah.
We don't need that. We should push back a bit against that nonsense harder. It's silly, you know. There's no evidence for it more than there is evidence for Batman. Sorry, excuse for this. Excuse me for the swearing.
You're good, man. I gotta say, I totally
It's ridiculous.
totally
It's
agree with
ridiculous,
all of
man.
that, man.
It's ridiculous.
But I think there's a time and place, right? There's a time and place for us to make the jokes and to say the silly things, and there's a time and place for us to be able to have good communication where we take an extra 30 minutes to understand a single stupid definition, right?
Here's the definition for you. What's the definition for Lucifer?
Morning star?
What is? I heard Jay-Way earlier. That was an interesting one. She actually had a very interesting conversation. I enjoyed her conversation. What is the definition for Lucifer?
Morning
Here's
star?
a weird one that most religious folks don't know. It means the bringer of light.
I think that's the Lucifer. I think Lucifer means Satan, and Satan means light bringer. Is that right? Satan.
Bringer of light. I mean, the root of it is crazy.
Yeah. Anyways, we do have to.
It's twisted for man's purposes. That's all it is. It's a manipulation tool, much as the internet, much as any other tool that we have. Where it's a hammer, you know, it's a saw, it's a tool.
Well,
it's used in man's purposes to manipulate other men. That's all it is.
Evan, I want to thank you so much for taking the time to call in. We are actually at the end of the show, but thank you for watching. And thank you for calling. Of course. Man. I hope you have the good rest of your day.
Good night, guys.
Good night. Okay, so we do have another caller on hold. Unfortunately, we're out of time. Tony, if you could call back next week at 7 p.m. Central Time, I would love to talk to you about your alien abduction story. Yes. So again, 7 days from now, the show is every Tuesday. Yeah, hopefully he disconnected. Hopefully he calls back. Second Rarity, before we jump over to the Discord, is there anything else you wanted to say?
No, I think we said it all, man. Go back, watch this episode again if there was something you missed. And guys, seriously, it's so easy. YouTube, Facebook, Twitter, they make it easy for you. You don't even have to try. Push the buttons, share the videos, like, subscribe. Y'all know what to do. And then come freaking hang out with us in the Discord afterwards.
That's where we're going right now. So Secular Rarity, thank you for stepping in last minute. I hope everyone has a good day and great week. And we'll see you in the Discord.